Hey squad, it's Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I had to hop in the news about Israel. So for those that haven't been watching, Israel has been crazy. Crazy. So Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, considered the longest serving Prime Minister of Israel, well, he was on trial for corruption. And he was able to get elected, and to do so, he is considered to have partnered with groups some consider far right, some consider orthodox. Basically, these groups don't mess around. They have a very finite view of Israel and Israel's place in this world, and they are really not up for negotiation. They're not that type of party. So in getting elected in coalition and alliance with these groups, there were two primary platforms that would initially set out. Platform one, judicial reform. It's very obvious to see why a gentleman or a sitting prime minister on trial for corruption is concerned with judicial reform. That's not a big gap for me to not a big bridge to build or a gap to close. Now, people of Israel, especially the democratically minded people of Israel, or the more center-line view of sorts, they took to the streets. They said, this is not the country we want. We want a democratic country with a balance of power. And up to this week, the primary story coming out of Israel has been about Prime Minister Netanyahu's proposed power grab. That's been on the news, that's been on the media, that's been across the wall. The second piece of that platform that Minister Netanyahu was able to achieve victory on was in awarding National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir his proposal for his own secret police. Excuse me. His own National Guard, right? It's going to be it's not his, it's going to report to his position, but it's not his. Now, this gentleman, Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, he has got his name by being a lawyer and defending extremists and what considered terrorists or far-right activists. He's known for defending these people and helping them get off. And not only that, but he's known himself to have been charged with some related crimes, crimes of extremism, hate crimes, or basically this is not a gentleman that is going to see things from a very balanced point of view. That's the whole sentiment behind this. Now, how you consider far right, etc., is up to you. I just take it that this gentleman, Minister Ben-Gvir, is a nationalist, a hardcore nationalist. And from what I've obtained from reading about some of his views, he's just a person that says, look, we want proud Israelis only. If you believe Israel should be an open place of different views and diversity, you're not going to side with this guy. He's a purist. He said, this is our country. We should stand, protect, and above all, love it. So his view of how things should operate in Israel is kind of what's going to filter down to this National Guard. Now, what people aren't talking about necessarily, because the news cycle has been changed, is he was approved. Minister Ben-Gvir's National Guard idea was approved, and it was set into motion. It's just a matter of implementation, and that's just a matter of when, not if. But this story has been on the back burner because this week, the leading headline has been about the Israeli storm on Al-Aqsa Mosque. So I don't know what the original storming of the mosque was, especially considering this is during the holy month of Ramadan. But whatever it was, it felt it had to be done quick and in a hurry. But I do find the timing very interesting because no longer are people covering the potential judicial reforms that they were protesting in the streets. No longer are people covering the approval of this National Guard to Minister Ben-Gvir. But now all they're talking about is the storming of the mosque. And not only that, it has escalated, which it would because the scenes are horrifying. You have soldiers suited and booted coming into the mosque, zip tying people, whipping out batons, women running and screaming. It's horrific. Since then, that has been a domino effect. Of course, neighboring Hezbollah starts firing rockets into Israel. There's an escalation in the war with Iran and Syria. This is all taken over the news cycle. This is what's in the news cycle now. So it's no longer about Israeli domestic issues, but it's about Israeli um, relations with the Palestinians as well as the foreign issues. And I really think this is in benefit to the prime minister because when you're talking about the judicial reforms, the National Guard, this is a question between an Israeli and an Israeli. Almost a question of division because you're on this side or that side. It's a domestic issue. Either you're on that side or this side. And how do we resolve this issue, right? But when you step it up to an Israeli versus Palestinian issue, Israeli versus Hezbollah issue, or Israeli versus Iran issue, this solidifies the country. So Israel's always been a savvy actor. Israel couldn't exist if it wasn't a savvy actor, especially in that neighborhood. So it's very interesting to see how the news cycle changed all of a sudden. This political jujitsu sort of thing where we're looking at Israeli protests in the street, holding signs, picketing, fighting for democracy, and now Israel fighting for its livelihood, defending its homeland against foreign invaders. So we'll see how the story unfolds. I just thought it was very interesting. The switcheroo that was pulled here. I was just watching it. And like one day Israel is fighting for democracy. The next day is fighting these foreign vicious foreign outsiders that's challenging our right to exist. So it's going to be interesting to watch how President Netanyahu, a very smart individual indeed, he's an MIT guy, but it's going to be very interesting to watch how he performs over these coming weeks, as well as watch Minister Ben-Gvir advance up the ranks through the series of his leadership and see what his new National Guard really is going to be up to. So this is definitely interesting times. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. Please comment. I'd like to hear some of your thoughts. Like, subscribe, and share if you enjoy the content. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.